like land flipping, the stuff we do is different than house flipping. It's different than wholesaling. It's different than all these other, but that's why it is so profitable.
I call it the itch. Like once you get that, you're just going to keep scratching until you get your next one. Like you just won't stop.
This podcast, we just got to talk about getting your first deal. Because once you get that, you're not stopping.
No.
One of our sellers was having difficulty getting to closing, and our partner sent an Uber to their house to get them to the closing. It's problem solving. Opposed to like, this deal's dead, or I got to just wait till they can get a ride or something like that. Send them a damn Uber. You know what I mean? Hey everyone, welcome back to the Real Estate Investing Podcast. I'm your host, Ron Apke, joined again by Anthony Weiler, my co-host today. And today, Anthony, we're going to talk about getting your first 10 deals. And what our goal with this podcast, I think, is getting your first 10 deals within the first 12 months. What does that look like? That's a deal a month, less than a deal a month. So it's nothing crazy. It's very realistic. We have people who are doing that. We have people who are doing their first 10 deals in 3 months. But what are your thoughts on this topic in general?
No, I love it. A lot of times people, they're always looking for that consistency, and they start off like, oh, what does it take to make like 10 grand a month, or how do I have consistent deal flow? So I think there's some good nuggets in this one.
Yeah, we could name this podcast 10 deals in a year, 10 deals in 12 months, a deal a month, whatever it is. But that's what we're trying to get out of this. Like, how do you gain some consistency in this business? How do you go from, if you're just watching if this is your first time watching us, some of you out there, it's your first time watching us, how do you get your first 10 land flips in the next 12 months? And I think diving all into that is important. But just going into it, Anthony, when someone is first starting, if this is their first podcast they're listening to, like what should they just be doing? Should they just be consuming content? Like, where should they be?
Absolutely consuming content, joining communities, connecting and networking with people. I think that is a great start. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. And I think just there's so much free content out there, and just like seeing I think the first thing when you hear this and it like a light bulb goes off in your head, and some people a light bulb goes off in their head and they're like, okay, I got to do a lot more research. Some people a light bulb goes off in their head and they're like, I got to go for this. Like, this is the thing for me. And I'm more in that second thing. Like, when I hear something that sounds good, I'll do research just to make sure legitimacy, everything like that. But it's not like I'm going to consume 100 hours of free stuff. Like, I'm ready to go if my money gets put in the wrong spot, so be it. I guess, like, how does someone know if this business model fits them in terms of what their life looks like? And we have so many different people in our community. We have people who are traveling the country with a job, and they're doing this part-time. There's so many different people. But how do you know if this is for you? Or that's might be a loaded question, though. I
mean, it is a somewhat loaded question, but if you're looking for financial freedom, and if you're looking to really grow and scale, and I do consider this like a low barrier to entry in real estate, in my opinion, like easily. And if you're looking to design a lifestyle to where you could leave your 9 to 5 within 6 months to a year on average is what we normally see within our community, which is crazy. Like, if you are looking to get out of that, then I think this is a great spot for it.
Yeah, it takes some upfront work. It takes some upfront education. You're going to be learning, like, you need to be open-minded. You're going to be learning about stuff that other aspects of real estate don't really do. Like, it's different. Like, land flipping, the stuff we do is different than house flipping. It's different than wholesaling. It's different than all these other, not 100% different, but there's a lot of different aspects. The way we send blind offers, the way we reach out to sellers. There's a lot of different ways that we do things, but that's why it is so profitable. And I think that's the biggest thing is, like, you need to be committed to it. Like, you need to understand the business model. Some people, like, you get people in consultations all the time who are like, I've listened to 100 YouTube videos, 100 of your podcasts. Like, stop doing that. Just let's go, you know?
Yeah, and that's why I like asking is like, okay, well, why haven't you taken action yet? Like, what's stopping you? Are you waiting for someone to say something to you? Like, okay, that's the validation I need, or like, what is it? But yeah, it's just,
what is it usually
in terms of why
yeah,
not?
like, why do people who have the money to start this business, and you said earlier, low barrier entry. I think barrier entry is always relative to like what the upside is, and the upside of this business with what you can do with $4,000, $5,000, $3,000 is insane, like absolutely absurd. As far as the potential upside, with $3,000 you can get $100,000 deal. It's just realistic, like it's just possible. Crazy. I've seen it happen time and time again. I try not to be too like just the business model as a whole, but you see it time and time again. And the barrier to entry, like if it's barrier to entry is $3,000 and your upside is $10,000 or something like that, a $10,000 deal, that's not great. But if your upside is 100,000 plus, like those are real. Like it can be life changing stuff. But to get back to the question, what is kind of the holdup of people who are in the position like it feels like they should be doing this?
It's just that mental barrier of just like taking that leap. You have to be comfortable being in uncomfortable situations. And I think for people doing that, starting their business for the first time, most people that are doing this are like nurses, software engineers, they're teachers, like they don't have an entrepreneurial background. So I think something like this is a little scary for them. But like you were saying, you see the results of other people and then you get your first dopamine hit with that wire coming in with your first deal. I mean, you're just not going to stop.
Yeah, and some of those, it fits so perfectly, and it sucks to see it when like people aren't taking action as far as that, because to get 10 deals, like that was the title of this podcast, of this episode, to get 10 deals, you got to do something. You got to take some action. And I think going from that, like, okay, I'm consuming stuff to I'm actually doing stuff, that transition is big, because consuming stuff is generally like you could have bought whatever it is. But if you're just consuming stuff on YouTube, like that is a free thing to do, obviously, other than your time. But once you start taking action, now you're buying data, you're sending mail, you're talking to sellers, like it becomes real. And I think when it becomes real, or like the idea of it becoming real holds so many people back. Once you get that first deal, this podcast, we just got to talk about getting your first deal, because once you get that, you're not stopping.
No, I call it the itch. Like once you get that, you're just going to keep scratching until you get your next one. Like you just won't stop.
100%. And some of these people's first deal, like it was on Wednesday webinar, like I always like asking people like how they're doing on that. And like the amount of people who are doing stuff that I had no idea what they're doing is just crazy. Like these people who have been in the business 3 months, like you just got to find a way to get that first deal. And getting that first deal, it's a roller coaster. Let's talk about that actually, Ant, because getting from 0 to 1, and it's your first 12 months, it's not like you're going to get a deal your first month necessarily. You could for sure, but the first 12 months, it's like, okay, the first 3 months, like you're learning, you're taking some action, you have some leads coming in. Then by 3 months, you should be getting your first deal. But let's talk about like getting that first deal, mindset, everything around it kind of. I don't know if that's kind of a loaded question again, but what's like, you see it so much, and you're reviewing so many people who got their first deal, and it's like, there's consistencies with the type of people who are doing it, because it's not all like sunshine and roses. It isn't. And I don't want to portray it like that.
Yeah. And I set expectations up front with my coaching students that are just getting started and are looking to get their first deal as quick as possible. And the people that I see that transition quite well, like how you were saying, people that digest a bunch of content like hundreds of hours, right? And they're just, when you're about to get started, you get really excited, right? But before you take action, you kind of get caught up. But the people that are successful is they take all that energy and that excitement from the education, and they apply that with all the action items that are needed. But in terms of expectations, I mean, it's hard for that first deal because you've invested in education. Marketing is not cheap. I mean, it's for 2,500 mailers, it's normally like 65 cents on average. So, you're spending thousands of dollars on marketing. You're waiting for that to compound, waiting for those leads to hit. You're starting to get those proof of concept of, okay, there are interested leads. Maybe you haven't closed one out just yet. And it's like, okay, well, you've done a mailer or two. You haven't had the results yet. But if you stay consistent, the results will come. And I think that is absolutely the hardest part for people.
100%. Like, it's like, if you get a deal, if you get a deal on your first set of mailers, amazing. Good job. Congratulations. You're gonna have following mailers. Like, it's like your mental barrier is like on that first mailer when you don't get a deal, or it's on when you get the deal, that first mailer, and then your second and third mailers. I'm not saying it's 100% always going to be like that. Some people get deals every single mailer. They're great on the phones. They send follow-up text. But like that is the hardest part. Like, that is the mountain to climb right there, is when you don't get a deal on that first mailer, like, it's fine. Like, I already have my mail lined up for the next 2 weeks, for the next 2 months, whatever it is. Like, I'm going to hit the send button. These are going to go out. And that is the commitment to the business model I think that's needed, because there are going to be, you hear it from everyone. Landon, who quit his job, like Justin, who I don't know if he quit his job. I haven't talked to Justin in a while. But people who are in the podcast chair, like, you hear it from these people, like, the first 6 months can be rough. Like, to be real to anyone trying to get into this, like, first 6 months can be rough, but those months 7 to 12 are insane.
Yeah.
Like they really are.
I mean, just like with anything, you got to let it compound over time. And I had someone message me yesterday actually on Discord. It's like, hey, my first 2 mailers were a dud. I got 6 responses. They were all like not good pieces of land. I'm thinking about giving up. What do? I'm like, skip trace that list, text them, cold call them. Like, you look at future mailers, get that figured out, understand what your budget is, but don't stop. Like that's common. Like your first 2 mailers, like you're learning. Maybe your pricing was off. Maybe there's something wrong with the merge proof. Maybe you weren't selecting the right areas. Maybe you weren't using the right filters on the land portal, right? So it's like you can't stop. That's like trying to run a marathon on your first try and be like, crap, I only ran like 5 miles.
Yeah, and it's not like sending a piece of mail. Like there's more to it than that. Like you got, like you said, like other methods of contacting them. People out there need money. Like I promise you, people out there who own land need money. And what we are offering is money fast. You need to find a way to talk to sellers, and then go from there. Be confident with it. And it's such a big part of this business is just like being able to, like, how do you get them on the phone? Text them, call them, send mail, all these things. Like we are not, at one point, guys, we were like, just send mail, send mail. Every single coaching student is taught how to set up text campaigns and stuff like that because it is a big part of this business. It's just multiple points of contact. It's normal sales. You talk to wholesalers, they're sending 20 texts to these people to get a deal, or 20, like they are sending follow-up mail. They're sending all these things because it's more competitive. But, you got to open your mind to the different forms of marketing. I know you do some cold calling stuff. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So within my land flipping business, we have a couple cold callers. We do text messaging campaigns, and we use mail strategically. We're even looking into postcards with a photo of their land and just little unique things, just multiple touch points, being unique, any areas to stand out. And like I've talked about before, at the end of the day, we're a marketing company, right? Like you said, this is common in sales with like multiple touch points. I'm going to try, every avenue that I can.
Yeah, 100%. We teach the basis of it. And then there's little strategies that I hear people talk about that are like, that's awesome. I'm not going to teach that to everybody, but that's awesome. As far as some people go and talk in person to every single seller. What did Amy say someone did? Amy said one of our sellers was having difficulty getting to closing, and we were partnering with someone on a deal, and our partner sent an Uber to their house to get them to the closing. Like just little action things versus okay, this seller can't get the closing, this deal's dead, or I got to just wait till they can get a ride or something like that. Send them a damn Uber. You know what I mean? That I've never heard that one. There's so many different stories that I hear like that. It's problem solving, you know what I mean? Opposed to just letting the problem overcome you, or you can't do anything about that problem. There's always a solution.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Problem solving is absolutely everything. No, I like that a lot.
So we got you guys to a first deal. Be consistent, be willing to get over the hump, be willing to send mail if your first mailer, if your first campaign doesn't do well, you need to have that. We talk a lot, deals 2 to 10. We talk a lot about once you get that first deal, you bought that first deal, things can get overwhelming. You might have a lot of stuff. You might have a lot of due diligence. Activities, tasks can really start piling up on you. And what I see happens with this is you got one deal, you got 2 deals, and then you stop sending mail because I got to sell these properties. I got to do X. I got too much due diligence doing other properties. Stopping sending mail will stop your deal flow. It is so crucial to keep your marketing campaigns going. I've heard so many stories of people I'm getting back into sending mail now. It should never be that.
Yep.
Our brother Michael, I think, was at one point. He had some other stuff as far as he was transitioning away from his job and stuff. Right. But you're not going to get deals. You are not going to get consistent deal flow if your marketing stops. You stopped marketing for a while, right? And you didn't get deals.
Yeah, but then when even though I'm in the land flipping space, and then you're doing it on your own, it's you almost feel a little clunky. It's damn, I got to get those reps back in again. But yeah, absolutely. Once you turn that faucet off, I mean, there's really nothing happening in your business other than the stuff you have listed for sale. It's all about consistent lead flow. We say that day in and day out. Consistency with marketing, you're going to have results. You will.
It needs to be like clockwork.
Yes.
We have you might get some old leads coming in when you have old mail that's out, sure, but it's not going to be the same. Like if you want to have consistent cash flow, you need consistent deal flow, which means you need consistent mail or marketing flow, whatever your marketing looks like. And it's such an important thing. We can talk about a little bit about just like selecting counties, because I think that's a big barrier to entry. Like, where am I going to be marketing, opposed to having your marketing lined up for the next week, or like I'm going to line my marketing up today for next week. Have your county selected for like the next 3 months. I think bulk doing things in this business like that can be nothing's going to change in the county. Like the county's going to be what the county's going to be. Pricing might change a little bit, but like having at least being a month ahead, but I think 3 months ahead on your county selection is important.
I think it just relieves so much stress too, because when you're really getting after it, you're sending mail or whatever your marketing method is, and those leads are coming in, you get stuff under contract, and then let's say you even have some listed for sale. You're working on all those moving pieces, and then before you know it, you could completely forget about selecting a county, and then it's like, oh crap, it's been a month and I haven't sent out mail, and then you have to pretty much start from scratch. But if you have all that done on the front end, you're able to manage all those moving pieces, and those are things you're handling for the first time. You want to spend a little bit more time and energy on that. And like you said, if you have like 3 months of marketing already planned out with county selection, you don't have to worry about that. It's so huge.
And the biggest thing is, one, it's like you have it planned out. Two, it's like when people are doing it every week, they like, okay, what did my last mailer do? I did this in North Carolina, it didn't work, so I got to go to Washington State or something like that. If you have your 3 months of marketing, review your results every 3 months or so. Like I mailed to X state, I mailed to X counties in this cluster close to this city. Like now let's review some results. But if you do it if every campaign is it's each individual campaign, and then it's reviewed, and like it throws you into different markets, and then you have to find new title companies when you start getting new deals, and you got to talk to the county, and you have there's so many different things that need to happen when you're jumping from state to state to state. And when you do those 3 months beforehand, it relieves all that. You're like, this is what I'm doing the next 3 months. You can have a projected profit. Like it's not that hard to project profit in this business at scale. But I mean, $10,000 piece of mail is generally gonna be around $50,000 to $60,000 of profit. That's what I've seen. It always 10x's our mail spend. 65 cents, $6,500 a mail, $60,000 or so. It's very, very normal. So it isn't hard to predict. Talk about like where are you getting deals right now, Ant? Like I want people sending mail. Are you sending mail right now?
Right now, no, but we are looking into strategic mailers specifically for large subdivision deals.
Awesome.
That's what we're working on.
That's all.
Right
And
now.
that's with the land portal. You can do so much in terms of that, like as far as being precise with what you're doing. So where are you texting at all, or are you just cold calling?
We are implementing texting. We were using a marketing agency for texting, but I wasn't happy with their services. Like, all right, let's go back to the basics. We'll do launch control. Like I wanted to outsource as much as possible for marketing, but like the results are there with launch control. Everyone sees it within the community too. I was like, I'm jumping back into there. So yeah, cold calling, texting, and then strategic mailers. And in terms of location, kind of all over the place in terms of trying areas. Like for me, I'm completely open to trying any area as long as everything looks good on my end, but being very strategic for larger deals though.
And you've outsourced most of the day-to-day in your business, right?
Yes. Practically the entire day-to-day is outsourced. So what I do at the end of the day, like once I'm done here at Land Investing Online, I go home and I was like, okay, here are all the leads that have come in like later on throughout the day, comp them out, tag my team. Then during the day, they start banging out calls.
What do you think from this episode, and like, what are people going to be asking? Like, what is there? I want to think about something that people are asking right now as they're listening, and like what we can help answer for them. Because again, this title, 0 to 10 deals. Like, can you think of anything? Like, what are people going to be asking from this episode that we can answer before the episode's over?
So, not only getting like your first deal, that's always one of the biggest topics. But one thing that I've noticed too is when people get that first deal, I don't know if they know, or they kind of struggle with how to manage that profit. Like how much goes to marketing? Should I pay myself? What is this something I should expect consistently? Should I double down on marketing? Am I ready to handle that? Do I have the right systems and processes? And I feel like that's a very common thing right now for people that are getting their first deal.
What are your thoughts on it?
I think it depends on the
let's just say
profit.
$20,000 profit. They did very normal profit deal. They bought for I don't know, they bought for 20,000, sold for 60,000, had profit split, whatever it is.
Awesome. Yeah.
Very normal first deal. They made $20,000 after everything. What do you suggest?
If it's $20,000, what I would do is I'm reinvesting all of that into the business. I'm planning that out though in terms of campaigns and marketing. How much marketing does that have? And it depends how much I've already invested into the business too. But at that point, that's all just for future mailers. I would maybe increase my mailer count, not anything significant unless you are really planning to grow, scale, and outsource. But I would do more of a very slow strategic approach until you get your next deal. I'm like, okay, now I feel very confident. Let's do that. Because I've seen some people that, and it just depends on the individual. Like someone like Landon, he just boom, double down. He'll do whatever he needs to do. But I think some people could be a little overwhelming. So it really depends on the individual, I feel like.
Yeah, I don't think necessarily what was your plan coming into this? Was it, did you just fall into a deal? Was your plan X mailers? Like, that's what Landon did so well, is like he had a plan with how much mail, how much marketing. Sometimes he expedited that. Like, I'm going to start sending 20,000, whatever the volume was, and I moved that up from August to June or something like that. That's what he did really well, and he understood it. Like, what I don't want you doing is like separating that money, the $20,000, and like, here's $4,000 going to this, and then it's like, and then you're like out of the money, and you're like, I don't know. It's like, okay, this is what I'm going to do once I'm out. Whatever happens with the situation. Some people like divide it up like that, and I don't think that's the way to do it. But 100% fueling your business. Don't go buy a new car. Don't go buy some shoes or whatever it is. Fueling your business, understanding the taxes too. Like, you are going to have taxes on that money. Not that it's a crazy amount of money. You'll get more deals if you keep going into the business. Maybe your next deal, if it's buy for 8,000, sell for 20,000, buy the deal yourself. Don't outsource the money, because you have some money there. If you have a small deal, think about funding it yourself.
Yeah.
I think funding small deals, finding a way to fund those, buy for 12, sell for 30,000 yourself, fuel people's businesses beyond, like, I think it's one of the biggest things. Like, just for example, your first deals, like your first deals when you outsource the funding, like, think about if you could have got that 20, like, it's real. Like, you know what I mean?
20, 30 grand,
you know what I'm saying? Like, it is a big difference. And I'm not saying everyone can, but if it's your second deal and you have profit, like, okay, let's fuel this. Let's fuel my business. I have $20,000, buy for 12, sell for 30. I have money in my bank after I buy this $12,000 deal. Don't start like putting in your piggy bank. Don't start like saving up too much or be crazy. Invest in the business. How can I make this money make more money? And that's what the wealthiest people do. Like, they leverage their money really, really well. People who put it in the 0.5%, quarter of a percent bank, they are the middle class. That just is what the middle class is defined. Like, they save money really, really well, but they're not like leveraging the money to make more money. But I think I'm going to end it there, Ant. Do you have anything else to add?
No, I think the biggest thing, like we always talk about, is just literally consistency. You get that first deal, be strategic with your next moves. And you said something really, I thought that stood out when you're talking about Landon, and it is like, he had a clear vision. And I think having a clear vision of where you want to take this business is just going to really help feel like, okay, what does 0 to 10 deals look like, time frame, and how do I really grow and scale to the next level?
Nothing took him off that path either. Like, that's the coolest thing. Like, he did speed up some timelines, but like, it was narrow. And one thing, did we talk about it last episode? One thing, maybe I talked with someone else. Landon shut off all like, he wasn't listening to the bigger pockets, because like, there would be things that would distract him. Like, there were no distractions he let in his sphere, and that he quit his job in 6 months. He wanted to quit his job after like a year. Some people put in there, I want to quit my job by 2026. I'm like, shut up. Like, let's put in the next 6 months. Let's figure out how to quit your job in the next 6 months. That's just some BS thing. What's going to be the world in 2026? Who knows? Other than that, guys, if you're watching on Spotify, Apple, leave us a review. Please leave us reviews. It really helps on Spotify, Apple. Leave us a comment. YouTube, subscribe below. Hopefully you guys like this. Other than that, see you next time.
Take care, guys.
As always, thank you for joining. Please do us a huge favor and like and subscribe our YouTube channel and share this with a friend. It really means the world to Ron and I, but more importantly, it could help change the life of someone else. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next episode.